Hi, my name is Eugene Stepanov. I'm a senior database solution architect with AWS. Here at AWS, I focus on Postgres and SQL Server. And today, we'll talk about a brand new feature that we launched on April 20th of this year, and that is RDS support for SQL Server analysis services. Now, analysis services, together with reporting services and integration services, have been such an important part of the SQL Server ecosystem that a lot of business intelligence solutions have been implemented using those tools. And prior to April 20th, you could still use analysis services, but you had to host the analysis services outside of RDS. So you would spin up EC2 instance, and that's where you would host the analysis services. And that works, but obviously that involves additional EC2 instance and cost associated not only with that instance, but also with the separate SQL Server license, which from the cost perspective, obviously is suboptimal. So starting on April 20th, now you can host the analysis services on the RDS instance itself. And this will be a focus of today's discussion. So agenda for today, first we will take a look at the prerequisites. Then we will jump straight to the step-by-step instructions where I'll take you through every single step of setting up SSIS on RDS, and then we'll jump straight to the demo. I'm hoping that we'll spend most of the time going over the console, going over the SQL Server Management Studio, deploying the tabular model, and browsing it. And then we will wrap up by going over some of these limitations that this feature comes with. With that, prerequisites. First, analysis services must be enabled in the option group. Those of you who already watched my previous videos on integration services or possibly analysis services probably recognize the theme. All of these features would have to be enabled in a custom option group first. Then the second one, analysis services supported for both standard and enterprise, starting with those build numbers. And again, those of you who watched my integration services video, those are the same build numbers. For 2017, you have to be at 3223.3 or later. And for 2016, you got to be at 5426.0 or later. The third one, RDS instance must be Active Directory joined, and not only Active Directory joined, it has to be managed, AWS managed AD. You cannot join your RDS instance with self-managed Active Directory. This use case is not supported. And then the last one, S3 integration must be enabled because the deployment of your project files and the analysis services database going through the S3 bucket. With that, let's go over step-by-step instructions. And again, we're going to be coming back to this list as we progressing through the demo. First, we're going to create the custom option group. The second, we will launch a domain join RDS instance, and we will associate that instance with the option group that we created in step 1. Then we will set up a Windows authenticated user for analysis services. And then number 4, we will download the analysis services model and the database backup down to the RDS instance itself. And then we will deploy the model. And then at the same time, I'll show you how you can restore an existing database backup if you have one. And with that, let's jump straight to the demo. So we're here on the console, and before we start doing anything, let's explore and let's see what I have already as far as components relevant to this demo. So let's go to my EC2. console. Let's go to running instances. And here you'll see two instances, probably familiar to you already if you watched my previous videos. The first one is Jumpbox. Jumpbox is nothing but a box that's been deployed to the public subnet where I can RDP in and take full control over. Right. And another one is DevBox. My DevBox is deployed to a private subnet, so I cannot connect to it directly. And that DevBox has entire Microsoft development suite, right? It has SQL Server, it has Visual Studio, it has data tools, the whole 9 yard. Now, okay, so this is EC2. Now let's go to RDS. And on RDS, I don't have much. Let's see. Right, I don't have any running instances at this very moment, and later during this presentation, we will be launching an instance um, for our deployment. And now let's go to directory service. As I mentioned before, one of the prerequisites for this to work, you have to join your RDS instance with the managed AD. So here I have my managed AD. It's a Microsoft Active Directory of size standard, and that's directory name of it is mycorp2.com. It's already been deployed. And the last component is my S3. Here on S3, I have a couple of buckets. Two of them are relevant to this demo. First of all is Adventureworks backups. And here I have Adventureworks DW 2017 backup. And I'm going to restore that database because my model will be built against that database. All right, and then SSIS cubes, it's empty as of right now, but we will use this folder later to transfer the files between the S3 and the SSIS instance. All right, so with that, let's jump straight to RDS, and let's go ahead and let's create that custom option group where we're going to be enabling the analysis services. So here, let me go back to my PowerPoint and let's see the step-by-step instructions. So here, we're on step one, and we're about to create an option group and enable SQL Server analysis services, right? All right, let's go here. Option groups are off of the menu. Click in here, and let's go ahead and let's create the group. And we will call it SSAS enabled. I'm going to do Enterprise Edition, and I'm going to do latest 2017. All right, so the group SSAS enabled is here. And let's go ahead and let's add option. So option we're going to add is analysis services. Maximum memory. That's it lets you set the memory that will be used by analysis services. The number can be anywhere from 10 to 80%. Just be aware, analysis services are very memory hungry application. So pay attention. Pay attention to the setting when you deploying your cubes because essentially you need to find the sweet spot in terms of splitting the memory between the SQL Server service and the analysis services, right? So I mean, I don't know, I'm going to set 30%. Security groups, it's my private SQL Server security group, and I am going to add that immediately. All right, and one more option that I want to add, and that is ability to work with native backups, because we're going to be restoring Adventureworks. So the role that you need to associate, it's right here. It's S3 backup restore, and it has full control over S3 bucket. And also I'm going to add that immediately. All right. So here now we have our custom option group built, and as you can see, we now we just enabled analysis services and the native backup restore. All right. Let's go to databases, and let's go ahead and create a database. Here we're going to do SQL Server Enterprise Edition. We're going to do the latest and greatest. I'm going to go with dev test template. It's going to be called database 3. That's fine. I'm going to give it a SQL authenticated master user and provide a password. Repeat the password. I'm going to leave most of it to its defaults, maybe increase the storage to maybe 100 gig, disable storage auto scaling, we're not going to use that feature. I'm going to go with single AZ, default VPC, private subnet group. This is a database workload, so please do not deploy your database workload to a publicly facing subnets. I just see no good reason other than asking for trouble. And security group, I'm going to deploy it to my private SQL Server security group. I will have no preference for availability zone and the port. I'm going to leave that's at default. And here we're coming up on Windows Auth. I am going to select my mycorp2.com and additional configuration. So I'm going to leave the default parameter group, but for the option group, I am going to pick the one that we just created, and that's called SSAS enabled. And I'm going to turn off the backup, the encryption, performance insights, enhanced monitoring. And the only reason why I'm disabling all these great features because I want it to deploy faster. That's all. And that's it. And I'm going to click Create Database. All right, that's going to take a few minutes. I will pause and I will come back when it's done. All right, it's been about 15 minutes, and now I see our database 3 is up and running and available. Great. Now, before we do anything, let's go to my development box. So as I mentioned before, I have two EC2 instances. One is Jumpbox, where I'm connected to, and from that Jumpbox, I'm opening up another RDS session and connecting to my development box, right? So on this development box, I have SQL Server, Visual Studio, and Data Tools installed. So this is, you see a management studio, and I am connected to my local analysis services. I have no databases running. And on my local box here, I have Adventureworks Tw 2017 restored, right? All right, now let's go ahead and let's open up a management studio with data tools, and let's create our first analysis service project. So here under analysis services, obviously there are two options, right? Multidimensional and tabular. As of right now, RDS supports only tabular model. So this is what we're going to be building. So I'm picking tabular model and analysis services tabular project. Let's call it my tabular model. Let's click OK. It already exists. All right. My tabular model 2. All right. So here we're going to go with a local host. Let's test the connection. Connection is successful. Let's click OK. Let's create the project. All right. So here we've got my tabular model number two. Let's go ahead and let's create our data source. Let's import from data source here, Microsoft SQL Server, obviously. Let's go against local host. Um, let's test connection. Let's pick Adventureworks 2017. And actually, let's go to advanced. I had much better luck working with Microsoft OLEDB provider rather than the native client. So I'm switching here to OLEDB. Let's test connection. Connection is successful. Click OK, OK. And well, let's test it again. Successful. And let's click next. And over here, I'm gonna do a Windows authenticated user. That's the domain user. mycorp2 /admin. Provide a password. Click next. All right, we're going to select from a list of tables. Next. All right, and now that's the wizard that shows you all the tables available and tables and views available within Adventureworks Tw 2017. So let's pick something really, really simple. Say, let's go after our purchase data, right? So dim product possibly, dim date, and where is down at the facts section? Let's find fact purchase. Fact purchase. There's no fact purchase. Oh, fact internet sales. All right, that's what we want. All right, and let's finish. Okay, it start importing the schema and the data. Let's close the wizard. All right, and now we see our three tables, 2 dimensions, dim date, dim product, and fact internet sales. And over here, if we click on the diagram view, let's explore the relationship. All right, of course. We have dim product, we have fact internet sales, and dim date. All right, let's again do something really, really simple. Let's maybe let's add a couple of measures against fact internet sales. So here I see a sales amount. That looks promising. All right, let's go back to the tabular view. Our fact internet sales. I'm looking for sales amount. Sales amount. All right, right here. So why don't we add a sum that will become sales amount. Let's add maybe account and oops, and let's add maybe maximum. That would be the um, maximum purchase amount. All right, so let's go ahead and let's build the model. I'm gonna build my solution. The build is successful, and let's go ahead and let's deploy the solution. All right, I'm deploying now to my local analysis services instance, right? Let me close this. Let me go back to my SSMS. We are right here. And now let's go ahead and let's refresh. And here we have my tabular model. Let's go ahead and let's browse it. All right, so here's the browser. Let's now find our measures. Here's the count. Here's the sales amount. Maximum. And here's the sum. And from the dimension, let's do, I don't know, let's do fiscal year, fiscal quarter. And from the dim product, English product name. How about that? Well, let's execute. All right. Here we have now fully functioning a tabular model running locally on our development box. All right, now let's go ahead and let's prep our RDS instance. Let's go back to the console. This is our brand new instance, RDS instance with SSAS enabled. Let's copy the endpoint and let's go back to my development box. Let's try to connect to it. So let's try to connect to both a relational engine. Well, relational engine has no knowledge of my Windows account yet, so I'm gonna have to connect with my master user. Here's brand new, absolutely empty relational model, relational engine. So let's go ahead and let me close the browser. Let's go ahead and let's create a Windows account. Let's create the login, the SQL login for my Windows account. Let's create that. We point into database 3. Perfect. Let's create that. And now let's go ahead and let's restore Adventureworks Tw from the S3 bucket. So for this, I have another script, restore. So this is restore. And what it does, it restores Adventureworks from this bucket with recovery. And it's going to be a full backup. All right, so the task is created. And let's run the status. It's now, the lifecycle is in progress. All right, let's run this one more time. All right, and now it's successful. So if we refresh database, we should see Adventureworks DW. Let's go to security, logins, and here I now have MyCorp admin in a list of logins. Why don't we go ahead and see the mapping, and let's give a DB owner to Adventureworks DW 2017. All right, so we just restored my Adventureworks DW on the RDS instance. All right. And now we should be able to connect to the RDS analysis service instance. Let's try to do that. Analysis services. We use in Windows Auth, of course, and we connect. And here's our RDS instance, and we have no databases. And now let's go back to Visual Studio, and let's build this project. All right, the project was built. Let's go ahead and let's pick up what's just been built. So here in the bin directory, we've got analysis model.analysis services database file, and then model.deployment options file. And these are the two files that we will use we'll put them into S3 bucket, we'll download them to RDS instance, and then we will use those files to deploy the model on the RDS instance. So that would be the first method. The second task, let's do analysis service database backup, and then we will also copy that over to S3 bucket, download it to RDS instance, and then try to restore from that backup. So for that, let's go here, and let's go and let's back up. Let's not compress, let's not encrypt, and I'm gonna put it into my DS3 folder. Let's click OK. All right, and now in the S3 folder, we should have our analysis services backup. All right, let me copy the backup file to my desktop. And let me also copy the other two files from the bin directory, the analysis services database and deployment options. I'm going to copy and put it on my desktop as well. And now copy and replace, copy and replace. And now let me go to the console and let's upload those three files into our S3 bucket. All right, SSIS cubes, upload files, desktop. These two and upload. All right, and now we have three files sitting in the S3 bucket. Let's go back to our box and let's download those files over to RDS instance. So for this, I have another script. Desktop. Here. So here I'm transferring, I'm downloading these three files from my S3 bucket called SSAS cubes down to my DS3/S3 folder on my RDS instance. So let's execute. Aha, we triggered an exception. Of course, S3 integration feature is not enabled, and that makes sense because we have not done that. Let's go to our RDS instance. Database 3 and manage IAM roles, S3 backup restore, and we want to enable S3 integration. Add role, and that's going to take a few seconds. All right, that's been about 20 seconds. Now the integration is active, and let's go back and let's try again. All right, so these tasks have been created, and let's now monitor the status. All right, and that's been about 2 minutes. And now I see all the files being downloaded down to the RDS instance. All right, so next command that we're going to be executing is this, and that's going to deploy the project on the RDS analysis services. So let's go ahead and let's kick it off. So the task has been created, and let's monitor the progress. And we have triggered an exception. Let's copy that from the task info, and let's see what we've got. All right, it says here invalid XML file deployment option, and the problem with that file is that processing option is not set to do not process. Very important, and we have not switched that option. Currently, it's set to a default, but it is one of the requirements for this to work. So let's go back to our Visual Studio. Let's go to Properties, and under Deployment Options right here, there's a processing option set to default. Let's go ahead and let's switch that to Do Not Process. Let's click OK, and let's build. All right, we just built the solution, which means that we need to pick again. It's probably just this deployment options file, but let's pick both of them. I'm gonna copy again. I'm gonna overwrite what I have on my desktop, and I'm gonna again go ahead and upload them to my S3 bucket. All right, now we've got two files. Let's go back to our script and let's download those two files again. These two. All right, let's refresh the task, and download's been successful. So why don't we go ahead and try to deploy our SSIS project again. And let's monitor the status. And let's refresh that. And now it seems like the deployment was successful. So now we should be able to connect to our RDS instance, the analysis services on RDS instance, and see the, let's refresh, see the database, and we don't see it. And the reason why we don't see it is because the domain account that I'm using to connect to the analysis services, the RDS analysis services, don't have database level permissions. So in order to get that, there's another command, and essentially we're going to be adding, we're going to be creating this task, SSIS add DB admin member, and we're going to add those privileges to my corp2/admin account. So let's create this task. Task has been created, and let's follow the progress. The lifecycle is created. And now let's go ahead and refresh the status, and now the task has been successful. So now we can go back to the analysis services, and now we see our database. Great. So now let's go ahead and let's process database. So that should take few seconds. It's a very small database. And now the process has been completed successfully. And now we can go ahead and try to browse our model. Let's go ahead and let's browse. All right, we should be able to find our measures, count, max, and the sum. And for the date dimension, let's grab fiscal year and fiscal quarter. And from dim product dimension, let's grab our English product name. Let's execute the query. And now we just deployed and processed SQL Server analysis tabular model on RDS SQL Server. So, but there's one more task that I want to show you, and that is instead of deploying the existing model, let's grab that backup that we created locally, and let's try to restore that backup on this instance. So let's close the browser. And actually, let's delete our database. Right, so our RDS instance now is empty. There is nothing on it. So in order for us to restore an existing analysis services backup, and again, if you remember, we created the backup on my development box, and that's my tabular model 2.abf file right here. And then we downloaded that file down to RDS instance. So let's go ahead and restore database from that file. All right, so task has been created. And let's go ahead and monitor the progress. All right, and now it seems like, let's refresh, the restoration task has been successful. And now let's go ahead and let's assign those database level permissions to mycorp2/admin user again. And again, let's monitor the status. So this task now has been created. All right, task has been successful. And now we can go ahead and we can refresh our instance. And now we see our tabular model too. So since we restored from the backup, that model already has the data, and we should be able to go ahead and we should be able to browse it. Here's the browser. Here's our measures. And in dim product, we're going to go with English name. And from dim date, we're going to do fiscal year and fiscal quarter and execute the query. So here's query coming back from the cube. All right, and the last thing, let's go ahead and let's process it to see if we can refresh it if need be. Process database. All right, and we just successfully processed our model that previously has been restored from the backup. All right, that brings us to the end of our demo. But before we wrap up, let's go to our PowerPoint and to our step-by-step instructions. So essentially, we went through the entire list. We started by creating our option group. Then we launched our domain join RDS instance. We set up our user, and then we downloaded our tabular model with a backup, with a database backup from our S3 bucket down to the RDS instance. Then the first test that we did, we actually deployed our model and we processed it. And the second test that we did, we restored existing database backup, and we saw that that works too. So before we wrap up, let's chat about limitations. The first one, on RDS instance, you are restricted to D/S3 folder. I hope that's clear by now. The second one, no direct deployments from Visual Studio. That's not possible. The method that I showed you using that RDS provided storage procedure is the only way. Now, the third one, the only supported port for analysis services is 2383. You cannot change that. And as of right now, tabular model is the only model that's supported on RDS. As of right now, you cannot do multidimensional mode. And the last limitation for now, it is single AZ only. And that brings us to the end of our demo. I hope that was beneficial. Thank you very much for finding time and watching this video. I hope by now you realize that you can bring your analysis services model, your tabular model, to the RDS instances, and hopefully you see how easy that is. And with that, I'd like to thank all of you and wish you happy computing from all of us at AWS. Thank you very much.